Okay, hello and good evening, folks. welcome once again to Suzerain. Look at that. Nice peaceful music. How are we all this evening? Nagisa, good evening, sir. Hello, Ollie, welcome. Joker Jake Pete, also early birds, I see. Right, anyway, so I'm off to football at well, it's kick-off at 8:30, so I need to be finishing this no later than 8. So we have got an hour and 45, call it an hour and 30. By the time I finish, yapping away in between stuff. But looking forward to pressing on here. I actually played for about 5 hours yesterday. I started a second playthrough. I was off work yesterday. I thought I'd have another day to relax and rest up, which did me the power of good in some respects, but it didn't in the other, because I found out that sitting around all day, no football, no going out walking, no working, no doing any LPing, no doing any horse racing, nothing. Just sat, played a bit of this for 5 hours, and then watched some videos on YouTube. I was bored. I had far too much time to think about things. I got myself into a bit of an anxiety situation with all my bloody ailments. I thought, never again. You know what? It's actually beneficial for me to be busy. I'm always busy. I'm never. Even on a weekend, it's very rare that I sit at home all day and do nothing. Never. I'm always doing something, and distraction is good. So I thought, never again am I doing that, unless I literally can't get out of bed. If I can get out of bed, I'm going to have to do something, because sitting around for me is not a good mental space. But anyway, because I did debate doing some LPing yesterday, but I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I said I'm going to have a complete day off from everything, to recharge the batteries. So I did that. But anyway, I'm feeling better. I'm not 100%. I'm about 75%, but I'm not 100%. Still some little niggles going on. My biggest concern now is my tongue. Funnily enough, it's not the whiteness of the tongue that's the issue. It's the lumps on the back of my tongue, which I'm like, it's a bit odd, a bit strange. So I've booked a doctor's appointment for next week. Not because I plan to go to the doctors if this goes away, but I thought to myself, if this doesn't go away after I finish my course of treatment here, then I don't want to be ringing the doctors next week and then waiting another week for an appointment, because my doctor's atrocious for getting an appointment. So I thought, no, I'll book my appointment in advance now for next week, and if it goes away, I'll cancel it. And if it doesn't go away, I've got an appointment ready to go. I thought I'll play it clever. I'll play it clever. So I'll just wait. I did that at about 4:30, so hopefully I'll get an appointment booked in for next week. They'll give me a confirmation tomorrow, hopefully. So that's the situation. But I'm playing football tonight, so clearly I'm well enough to run around the football field like a lunatic, and I think it's good for my mental health, and it's good for. I think it's getting a run around and just sweating some badness out is always a good thing too. At least I hope it is. If I come back and I'm a shivering wreck, then we know it wasn't a good idea. But anyway, so yes, here we are. Now, I seem to recall at the end of the last session we ended up with a load of briefings, a load of news to read. We didn't read them in the last session, so we'll have to read them to start this one off. But I do seem to also recall that we were told that everything is really bad. Nobody wants to vote for us, and the economy has crashed even worse than when we came in. So it's like, okay, there's probably no way for us to redeem this, but all we can do is just continue to do our best. You know, as long as we're alive after this term, haven't been shot dead, assassinated, you know, we can retire to an island as the next president, just like Mr. Sol fella. You know, that'll do me. I'll take my retirement fund. because I've got no personal wealth at the moment, and I'll just retire. Exactly. I can choose where it crashes. Into a city full of people or into a place where collateral damage is negligible. You never know. Look, Lucian's a miracle worker, okay? He might be able to sway this. Just don't book me any more interviews, please. That was awful. Book me a debate, though. Before I carry on with this, as I did say, it'll be an hour and 15 by the time I finish. Yeah, the last session was on Tuesday, right? So after Tuesday evening, I was going to go watch a film, and then I realised, actually, no, I'm not watching a film, because the debate was on. So I watched the catch-up of the debate. Anyone watch that? What a load of crap. We can talk politics a little bit, because it's the politics game, you see. I'll allow it. But yeah, the Keir Starmer and Richie Sunak debate was it was terrible. The host, she were useless. And them two, I mean, Sunak was worse for me in terms of lying, but I mean, Starmer was. It was it almost seemed to me like a bit of a wet lettuce. You know, Sunak was the more aggressive, if you want to call it that, of the two. Seemed to be calling all the shots, and Starmer was just sat there, or stood there rather. Can I finish? Oh, can I finish? I'm like, Jesus, he's mentioned this £2,000 nonsense. You said it's a load of nonsense, and it took him about half an hour to actually counter his point. So yeah, he just wants to say nothing. You don't have to say anything, to be fair. It's very true. No point of putting yourself in hot water if the enemy has shot themselves in both feet and both hands. Debate. It wasn't a debate. A debate to me is two people, having back and forth. It was just like, it wasn't a debate at all, was it? It was just, I found myself, it's the first one I've watched. I don't watch these usually, but because I'm playing a political game, I thought, I'd be interested to see what it's all about, It was like, what a waste of an hour. What a waste of an hour. Just nothing but crap. And what frustrated me more about Starmer was when he was asked a question about a policy or whatever else. I think 75% of the time he didn't answer about the policy. He was answering about how the Conservatives have messed up on that policy. Yeah, but what's your take on it? What are you going to do about it? Loads of times it was just like, but the Conservatives have cocked this up and this is what they've done wrong. Yeah, but we're asking what you're going to do to put it right. And he didn't answer several times, and that frustrated me. But anyway, it makes no difference. It makes no difference because, as you said, it's not going to make much of a difference. But anyway, that's my political talk done. I think there's one on Friday where there's going to be 7 people. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's going to be one with the 7 parties on Friday. That might be a bit more interesting because Nigel Farage is on it. The BBC one, yeah. And I'm not Nigel Farage's biggest fan, but I just think I just like the drama that he causes. I just like the drama that he causes. He's almost like a celebrity of the politics world. Right. Anyway, enough politics talk. Right, let's get to this. BioWare Dragon Age info coming out next week. Well, we'll see about that. It could be. It's not the BioWare of old, is it? It's just another EA-based, Ubisoft-based cookie cutter churning out nonsense company. But anyway, it could be good. And thank you, Shelley. I am feeling better. I'm not 100% still yet. Obviously, the infection is still running its course. Still getting the occasional hot and cold chill. The headaches are not as bad, but they do occasionally just rear up slightly occasionally. I had to take 2 paracetamols earlier. But the dizziness is gone, the nausea is gone. The loss of appetite comes and goes. I eat my meals, and then after I've eaten my meal, I have no desire at all to have any more food. So I had my lunch late. I had my lunch at 3:30, 3:15, and I went to my mate's house for a walk because I wanted some fresh air. That's why I'm a little bit late today. Went for a walk. I thought I was just going to get some fresh air. I've been in the house for 2 days, cooped up, getting stir crazy here. And she made some sausage and chips for herself, and she went, "Oh, do you want a sausage?" I'm like, "Oh." The thought of it turned my stomach. I'm like, "Oh no." I had my dinner about 2 hours ago. Normally I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll have a snack here, I'll fill up, I can have a bit more food, why not, just cram it in." And then I smelt the chips, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll have to have a chip, I can smell it." And I had two chips about that big, and I was halfway through chewing them. I was like, "Ooh, no, don't want any more, thanks. Ooh, no." So obviously I'm still not 100%, but definitely better than I was. So fingers crossed, just keep drinking liquids, keep with my medication, and just keep letting time do its stuff. KFC day. Ooh. I do like a bit of KFC. No, I didn't watch any films. I watched the debate instead. And yesterday I had all day to myself, as I said, and I could have watched a whole manner of films, a whole manner of programmes. But because I'd watched the entirety of The Bodyguard on the Tuesday, I was like, I don't want to watch anything on TV or a film. I'm not the kind of person that sits and watches stuff other than YouTube videos for any length of time. So I felt all TV'd out from the Tuesday, so I didn't watch anything. I just couldn't be. It's, as silly as it sounds, sat at home with nothing to do, I couldn't be bothered to sit there and watch a film. I wanted to do something a bit more productive, so I played 5 hours of this game with a new character, where I was playing a nationalist, hard-lined, market economy, bribe-taking president. The economy's doing really well. The people, who gives a crap? Power hungry, game playing president, based on the knowledge that I've gleaned from this playthrough. So that was quite fun. Hence why it's probably the longest I've played a single player game other than Football Manager for a very long time. So I'll have to finish that playthrough slowly but surely. EU elections on Sunday. Ah, interesting. Ultimate barbecue burger meal box. I love the burger meal boxes. I always go for gravy as the side. I always go for the tower burger to get the hash brown and the cheese and stuff in it. And the chicken piece has to be a leg for me, or a thigh. Look, a bit of thigh action, but not a breast piece. Dry as cardboard. This game is addictive. It is very addictive. It's a very good game. It's very well written. It's really been well done. But anyway, right, there you go. There's your flim flam. Let's crack on. I've got an hour and a half. Let us see what carnage we can cause. I got a new keyboard. Although it's shit. I'm not happy about that. Not happy about that sound in it, but it only cost me 18 quid, and it cost me nothing because I got a gift voucher for my birthday on Amazon, and there was 25% off it as well. So, but it's a bit like, what's it shaking? What's shaking in it? Not a clue. But it's one of these low-profile keyboards, so it's very light, and the keys are like laptop keys. The last keyboard that I had that was like that, I wasn't very happy with it because I kept mistyping on it. It was just the keys were a bit too flat. Whereas this one, the keys are just right. I can type really fast on this. I quite like it. Not a bad little bargain. 18 quid. It's got all the function keys, shortcut keys. Yeah. Black, sleek. Doesn't take up much desk space. Let's just hope it lasts longer than 6 months, which is what the other one lasted. One of these cheap Chinese knockoff things. Oh, this is Arctech, which seems to have got some decent reviews on there, but anyway. Right, come on, folks, let's crack on. Right, I just want to try something here. No, these are past, right? Yeah. Okay, right, so, Le Shaven. What's happening here? Controversial PR visit. Following a brief visit to Le Shaven, there has been an outcry against the unpopular president, with violent protests feared to be imminent. The city is deeply unhappy with the president's term, and there have already been some calls for Rain's resignation. Are we really being that bad? I feel like there's a bit of disproportionate stuff going on here. I mean, I know the economy's crap, but Bludish opinion high. Hey, they've come out in support for the sitting president. Thanks to President Ray's policies and actions, Dare has been incredibly high. The support has been high. Wow. No, because they're going to vote for the Bludish Free Party that we've just legalised again. We shot ourselves in the foot there, didn't we? Right, Avery is just a thingy. Record membership in the WPB. The increasing authority in state-appointed governor was a controversial decision in the Bludish region, sparking outcry against the president. That wasn't my decision. Actually, that was already in before I came. Yes, my inability to remove the special zone might be my fault, but I did try. I had to play a political game to get the Constitution through. I'm so sorry. Lesbia raises alert over Ravnos Island. Lesbia is moving to DEFCON 2. That sounds quite serious. Lesbia have got Arcasia support. I'm sure Arcasia put some military in Lesbia, didn't they? I'm sure they did many years ago, 2 years ago or so. That's one thing I think about this game that I think would be useful. If they would have a date and time, a date and, you know, a date somewhere, so you know how far your term you're through. I think that would be quite handy. It's a bit late now, the game is finished, but I just often find, well, where are we in our term? How far through are we? It's a bit like, you know, put your finger up in the wind kind of situation. I think that would have been quite handy. They're calling the Alliance of Nations to act swiftly. Okay. We shall see. Is that it for the briefings? Let's go to the highly pro-president papers. Cal, welcome. Swordland dependent on foreign help. Oh yes, we took. Look, our budget's only -5. We're only slightly in the deficit now. This means that in the next term we can spend a bit more and return the economy around. I think we're in a conservative situation here where we're not going to win no matter what we do, as saying at this point. President Anton Rain has led our once proud nation into a precarious state of dependency. We rely on foreign powers for survival, as our incompetence has driven us to request a staggering 3 billion Swedish ren from external sources. This desperate move puts Sweden at risk of becoming subservient to foreign interests. Yes. Okay. The Economist. Swedish Great Depression. Yes, we are witnessing a distressing phenomenon as businesses shutter their doors and investors flee. Look. We don't even have the excuse of a pandemic to hide behind. You know, yeah, there was COVID this and COVID that. Yeah, well, many years ago now, 4 years ago. Yeah, but we're still catching up. We've not even got that. We had a slight outbreak of polio. Will that wash? We're still recovering from the polio outbreak, you know, that shut the country down. We've got no excuse. The employment rate has skyrocketed to unprecedented heights, while our GDP has plunged into an all-time low, painting a grim picture of the state of our economy. At the centre of this economic catastrophe stands President Rain, whose subpar leadership has not only failed to rescue the country from its downward spiral, but has actively contributed to pushing it deeper into the abyss of depression. His inability to devise and execute effective policies has exacerbated existing issues and created a sense of despair among the populace. In every conceivable aspect, Anton Rain's disastrous tenure has cemented his position as the most deplorable president in the annals of Swedish history. The only way we are going to get out of this, perhaps with a re-election victory, is if Rumberg invade and by some minor miracle our piss-poor military, with the support of Valsland maybe, manage to repel the Rumbergian invasion. We have to extend our reign as president under an emergency situation, and then after we repel the Rumbergians back, the country love us as being the saviour from a foreign invader, and they re-elect us, almost like a Churchill style. That's probably the only way we're getting back in power. Yeah, kind people don't last long in politics. I'm going to finish my second playthrough where I'm playing as an absolute arsehole. And I'm going to probably do a very quick, brief recording of the ending of that. When we get towards the end of the campaign in my other playthrough, I'm going to compare and contrast the endings for you to see how the nice guys end up in politics when compared with the absolute arseholes that are power hungry, happy to take bribes, and don't give a crap about the people. He'll probably be re-elected under a hail of confetti. My Mr. Nasty Rain. Right, anyway, we're disastrous. We're disastrous. I bet the radicals are going to love this. Let's have a look. Seeking to address the turmoil created by his administration's mismanagement, President Rain has turned to the multinational finance institution, requesting a sizable sum of over 3 billion Swedish ren. This move has ignited a firestorm of controversy, with critics asserting that the president is merely attempting to mask his incompetence, thereby leaving the nation susceptible to external influence and control. As the president's actions potentially place Swordland under the thumb of foreign powers, concerned citizens and political commentators alike are voicing their apprehensions. That's quite factual. That's quite damning. No, that's damning. That is quite factual. Which for the radical is quite tame. And I've noticed that the radicals' papers, articles on us, have got less scathing recently. I don't know why. Neck deep in mud. Okay, this is more like them. Ever since, I may have talked too soon there. Yeah, even since President Rain entered the Maroon Palace, it has gotten worse. We are in the pit of an economic depression where people are losing jobs, houses and lives on a daily basis. Either the president lacks the competency of a leader or pleasures himself on the suffering of others. Whichever way, a new president will replace him at the next election. Along with Anton Rain, the phrase Swedish Great Depression will be etched into the nation. Oh, that's what I've been known for. Eh? The president that saw us into a Great Depression. Balls. Right, champions against the Riesian Giants. I'm not bothered about football. Who gives a crap? Valksland occupies... Oh, they've done it! They've done it! They have occupied Helluland. They've taken it back. Oh, dearie me. They have taken it back. So it's now... Look, it's back. It's red again. Look. Back under its rightful owners. Well, that's good news for them. Hopefully was that going to be the end of the matter? I mean, it should be. If you've lost it and they've invaded by sea, then you're not going to retake it, are you? Clearly you don't have the forces strong enough. Agnolia, admit defeat. Right. Where are we? Private meeting with Lilius Graf. Is this where she's going to turn around and say, look, President Rain, your tenure's been an absolute car crash. I think you know that you need to step down and let me take over. Maybe I've got some hope of winning the election for us, you know, new start and all that. The historic Graf Manor lay on the outskirts of Arvery. Let me just do this. At the end of a long winding drive, nearly 2 centuries old, it was as formidable as Lilius herself. Lilius has invited me here for a private dinner. Just the 2 of us. I wasn't sure of her motivations. I had an inkling, but wasn't completely sure. But was happy to have an excuse to escape the chaos back in Holsword. Sergei dropped me off at the door. Go inside without knocking. I used a heavy brass knocker to signal my arrival. The butler answered and showed me into the parlour. Gas lanterns lent the wood-panelled room a cosy orange glow. Lilius was sitting on the sofa. Above her hung a nearly life-size portrait of a sallow, unhappy-looking young woman in a lace ball gown. Why has she not got Sol on the wall? I expected a great big picture of him that she could worship every night. Is that you? It's probably a mother. Got off to a good start. My mother, actually. I was her only child, you know. Giving birth to me left her medically unable to conceive. My father never could forgive her for not bearing him a son, and she never forgave me. She took a measured sip of one of the 2 glasses of sparkling wine she was holding, and handed me the other. Get to the point. I'm not here for your sob story. Sounds like a painful childhood. The silver lining is that despite personally despising me, they felt compelled to grant me all the advantages a son would have had, including the education I needed to rise to my current position. Would you be so kind as to tell me why you invited me over? Sorry to press on, but I'm the president and there's an election happening and I've got to try to do something to save my skin. Given how your wife spends her time these days, I thought you might be in need of a home-cooked supper. Cheeky man. The butler silently stepped into the parlour and rang a silver bell. Ah, speaking of which... She led me into the dining room where a glittering chandelier hung from the high ceiling. Beneath it was a long table set for 2. A woman in an apron and a chef's hat, Vezek by her appearance, ceremoniously presented a roast rack of venison. Smells delicious. The groundskeeper shot it this morning. Oh, and fresh. Lilias bowed her head and said a quick prayer, then motioned for me to dig in. It was some of the best meat I'd ever had. Don't tell Monica that, Jesus. We ate in silence for a while, then Lilias pensively laid down her cutlery. Anton, I wish you had made national security more of a top priority during your term, but I'm pleased you at least recognise the need to place the gendarmerie under my jurisdiction. I do regret that you caved to Miss Wilder and mandated the teaching of that evolution nonsense in schools, not to mention feeling the need to pump our children full of strange chemicals in response to some unconfirmed health threat. Regardless, I'm looking forward to working more closely together during your next term. During my next term? Have you not seen the news, my dear, and the reports? What next term? What are you playing at, Lilias? I'll drink to that. Lilias raised her glass and smiled. What has she got up her sleeve? We clinked glasses. By the end of the meal I was pleasantly full and a little tipsy. The butler had to lead me back through the manor's winding corridors until I found the door. I waved at Lilias out the window as Sergei pulled away. Is that it? The campaign would be turbulent, but at least I had her on my side. Or so I hoped. Hang on. What? We went, we had dinner, she told me what she liked and disliked about my decision making, and then we left rather tipsy. Oh, so could that have gone very differently if she'd completely disliked us? Oh, interesting. So she's providing me with her support, which means a little bit, but it's the public that we need to win over now, isn't it? Not the rest of our party, I suppose. But anyway. The military parade for the benefits of dissuading Rumberg to invade us. Oh, so if she disliked you, she would resign and announce that she'll run against you. Oh, interesting. So we've managed to avoid that. So that's one less obstacle to have to jump over. Does that give us a little bit more of a glimmer? We've gone from 50 to 1 shots to maybe 25s. Still horrendously unlikely. Right, military parade. It was an unusual day for the residents of Holsword. Regularly used streets and avenues were blocked off by the military personnel. Many shops and cafes were closed and once crowded stores were now empty. Instead, thousands of residents in Holsword were concentrated in one street, Victory Avenue. Stretching out through the heart of Holsword, people on both sides of the road were waving their swordfish flags proudly for the military parade. Okay, this reminds me of a film that actually I quite like, to be fair. I've not watched it for a little while. But it was Victory Lane, and the quote of the film was, "Now you're going to walk, or am I going to have to carry you? Where to? Victory Lane." You can Google it and give me the film title, unless you know it. Walk, carry me. I'll race you there. And off they run down the pit lane. Right, stretching out for the people at the military parade. Guess the film, people. Hello? Thought I heard somebody talking. I was getting prepared. Is there a Krispy Kreme near me? There's not a... Yeah, near-ish. It's about 5 miles away. I can get a free donut. How? I'm not that fussed. I had a whole box of Krispy Kremes for my birthday, if you remember. I got a box from Costco. Oh, a giveaway. I can't drive 5 miles for a donut. It's a big office. It's a big retail park, so there are other things there that I could make an excuse to go there. There's an IKEA there, for example. Do I need any furniture? There's other stores there. Okay, so Iosef and Sergei are accompanying me. Sounds familiar. What's familiar? The quote that I gave you. Iosef approached me. He was wearing his decorated ceremony outfit. He carried a sword with a goat head at the handle and a pistol by his hip. Big iron on his hip. He put on his cap. Mr. President, we are almost ready. We will depart right after the tank column. Good. Iosef nodded. After hearing the loud thump of a book falling down to the floor, he turned to a couple of privates that were doing the preparations on the schedule and started walking in their direction. Private! Can't you do your job properly? I watched the young soldiers perform a lousy salute. That was like me many years... I'm getting flashbacks. Him giving me a bollocking. Pardon the pun. Pardon the language, rather. It's a good old British term, that. Give me a bollocking. When I let the refugees in. I've been there, privates. And still I have got a bitter side about that. I'm warming to Iosef a little bit, I will admit. What is that salute, soldier? Watch! This is a real salute. He performed an excellent salute, and after scolding the privates, he walked back. I bet they're absolutely crap in the pants. Strict as ever, I see. We can joke about it now. Old habits die hard. Sergei appeared from the entrance and joined us. Oops. Mr. President, Mr. Lancer. Sergei performed a salute to Iosef, which made Iosef smile under his moustache. At ease, Mr. Volkner. Are we ready to depart yet? Yes, sir. Follow me, please. We started following Sergei through the corridors. Mr. President, have you seen the tanks? Our planes, too? Rumberg will be so scared when they see this. Really? I doubt it, but hey, hopefully they'll get the message. I sure hope so. I am sure, Mr. President. Well, if Sergei's sure, my tensions are easing and melting away already. Sergei knows his stuff, I'm telling you. My kids were very excited to wake up today, you know, to see the planes fly. Sergei, where did you do your military service? Mon, 7th Artillery Squadron. I still talk with many of my friends from those days. Ah, yes, the camaraderie of military is never forgotten. I am still in touch with my friends from basic training as well. What about you, sir? Where did you serve? All over Swordland, you know. Mr. President was under my command once. Gumrun Outpost. He turned to me. Maybe we should laugh and joke about this now. You know what, Sergei? Not Sergei, Iosif. Maybe this is the time where I finally let it lie. Do you remember those days? Who can forget about Major Lanceer? We called him the Relentless. Giving him a smirk. Iosif let out a long laugh. Good old days. I also remember Mr. President did not like to execute direct orders from his superiors. Look, I'm a softie. I did what needed to be done, in my own head at the time. Look, I was young. Which was disobeying orders. But I won't delve into the past. We're here, sir. Oh, thank God. We exited the building and walked over to the clearance where the Black Cadilla, the presidential car, was waiting. It was decorated properly for the event, and the top canopy had been removed so that we could stand and wave to people. Sound familiar, folks? Sound familiar? Hi. On the way to the car, generals and admirals were lined up on both sides of the carpet. The atmosphere immediately changed when these experienced men who fought many times for their country saluted me. I saluted back with respect. Oh God. Yeah, oh God indeed. We entered the car and Sergei started the engine. Iosif was standing right next to me. The car started rolling, hopefully very quickly. Even though there were many walls and trees in between the car and the crowd, I was able to hear the deafening sounds of cheering Swordish citizens. Gradually we made our way to the starting point. A couple of old propeller planes flew above our heads, and I thought whether the planes were older than me. Loud footsteps of the marching soldiers were followed by loud noises coming from the tank engines. The tanks came into my view. They were not the most modern models, however, they displayed our military might. I couldn't even finish my thought, and one of the tanks broke down and had to be towed. Oh, you're joking. You're joking. We waited for a few minutes for the announcement. Finally, it was our turn. Can you imagine? Let's cut that out of the edit that we sent to Portugal National Television. We waited for a few minutes for the announcement. Finally, it was our turn. On both sides of the Victory Avenue, there were numerous citizens cheering my name, waving their Swordish flags. We shall salute. Looking at the benches where the general staff were sitting at, I saw Tarquin Sol sitting next to General Vulcan. Rearing his head again. We kept our slow and steady pace. We were almost at the Arthur S. Wishy statue several hundred metres away. A group of soldiers saluted me as we passed by. They did not even have matching guns. Iosif turned to me. Military might, tanks that break down, soldiers in mishmash equipment. Sprang one of the planes and dropped out of the damn sky. This is all a result of the cuts, Mr. President. I know. We continued on as per the schedule and finally arrived at the Maroon Palace, which marked the end of the parade. The people of Holsword dispersed to their homes. A clear message was sent to Rumburg by the display of our military might. Come on down! Easy pickings! That message? That is definitely not going to be enough. You kidding me? A tank broke down, for God's sake. What's this called? The bitter end? Will of the state. Oh boy. This has got to be election time. This has got to be election time. One news article. Is that all? Is that all you've got for me? World leaders to gather at Alliance of Nations. President Walker and Chairman Medvedev will be delivering their speeches at the Assembly. Am I being invited to that? Doesn't look like it, does it? Read the report. Schedule for the Alliance of Nations session. We have received a schedule. According to the dates outlined, Swordland 1 is being prepared for the flight to Constantinium. Kairoot. David Wishy will be attending. Oh, as well as accompanying me on the flight. Am I going to be able to speak to world leaders here? Oh. The Macopan Champions Cup. Is that football? I'm off to a football game. What? Today, oh yeah, we're campaigning. We're going to be putting ourselves out there, apologies. Today the management of FC Enrica had invited me to attend a pivotal football match. At Lucian's urging, I accepted. The team was representing Swordland in the international arena. According to Lucian, it would have been an unpresidential not to put in an appearance. FC Enrica was finally in the Macopan Champions Cup, the most prestigious football tournament in the world. For the first time ever, a Swordish team had managed to qualify for the knockout phase. Millions of Swordish people were waiting to watch FC Enrica compete against the legendary Riesian team Real Monteclar. Despite all odds being stacked against the team, the mood was full of hope. A win today would bring Enrica into the quarter-finals, a feat that no Swordish team had ever managed to achieve. And of course, all presidents of Swordland, current and former, were invited to watch the historic competition. I was told that both Tarquin Sol and Ewald Alfonso would be joining me in the lounge reserved for us. What? Interesting. How are you feeling, sir? Ooh, yeah, Pete would have loved this, wouldn't he? I'm fine, Lucian, thank you. I was probably thinking that, but we won't say it out loud. We made our way towards the Maroon Stadium. The arena was... Oh, we're at home here. The arena was situated in one of the most crowded quarters of Enrica, surrounded by dense urban development. As we wound our way through the streets, I noticed the name of Tarquin Sol everywhere. Since I'd last been here, markets, restaurants and even pubs named after the Colonel had all popped up. Alcosol. Why is Enrica so crazy about Sol all of a sudden? I noticed it as well. I've heard it as part of an old campaign, part of an ad campaign for Enrica, an attempt to draw tourists, or at least Solist ones, to the city. Sol's legacy still lives on for millions, after all. Lucian's pocket radio crackled. After responding, he turned to me. Sir, the security gave us the clear and informed us that Tarquin Sol has already arrived at the lounge. Good luck. I know he's quite the imposing presence. Please follow the guards to the top floor. You will be seated in the VIP lounge. You sure you can't join me? No, sir. The main VIP lounge has been reserved for presidents only today. Okay, thank you. Oh, advice! Any advice? Oh, never mind. I followed the security. We entered beneath a great sign that read, Welcome to the Hall of Martyrs. The corridors inside were painted almost completely in maroon. Adorning them were various depictions of the Swordish goat and numerous jerseys, awards and team photographs. On our way up, I was greeted by the president of the club. Beaming with pride, he immediately shook my hand. Enrica is Saul's hometown. Oh, interesting, okay. Behind him, Mayor Kirsten Lest and Gus Manger were waiting to greet me as well. All of them had FC Enrica pins attached to their collars. Welcome to Enrica, Mr. President. You are always welcome in Enrica, and it is great to see you show support in person. Thanks for being here. This match means a lot for all of us Enricans. And all of Swordland. Never before has a Swordish team reached this stage in the Macopan Cup. It's great to be here in Enrica. Thanks for coming. The president of the club walked in, handed us gift bags full of FC Enrica merchandise and gave a speech stressing the importance of today's match. After delivering his best wishes, he kindly pointed us towards the lounge, which was surrounded by heavily armed men. Once I finally found myself inside, I was greeted by an amazing view of the entire pitch through floor-to-ceiling windows. Tarquin Saul was already seated on the leather sofa, casting his hawk-like gaze out onto the field. He did not react when I entered. Oh, what do we say here? We seem to be crossing each other's paths on the oddest of occasions. Pretty true, isn't it? To what do we owe his pleasure, Colonel? Tarquin Saul leaned on his cane and turned his head to look at me. Mr. Rain, I didn't hear you come in. He smiled at me and gestured at the vacant spot beside him. Please, join me. I approached the sofa and sat next to him. I am surprised that you have the audacity to face me after the way our last meeting ended. I suppose that demands some respect. Yes, that was the past. I believe we can put it behind us. The corner of his mouth curled up mirthlessly. Tell me, is everything faring well with your new constitution, Mr. Rain? Now that we've put the 1929 Constitution behind us, things are only gonna get better. After my turn, probably. Or we could say that's nothing for you to worry about, Mr. Saul. Hello? Yeah. What? No, I'm going to say that's nothing for you to worry about. It's a bit more neutral. I will decide what I worry about, Mr. Rain. He sighed. You made a grave mistake by removing the national identity of this country from its constitution. With one pen stroke, you destroyed a unified Swordish identity that took centuries to build. And for what? To appease a minority that shows no respect or gratitude towards this great country of ours. He locked eyes with me. Despite all the warning signs, you adamantly followed your own pig-headed vision for Swordland. You continued on the path that Eorwald Alfonso started, obliterating our economy and throwing the nation into a quagmire of poverty and depression. Furthermore, you chose to defund our national defense in a time when Eastern Macopa is waiting to explode in our faces. He's got away with words, hasn't he? I'm warning you, Anton. The path you've chosen will only bring about death and misery. My path is my own to tread. You have no influence of my presidency, Colonel. I'm so put out by accusations I can't even speak properly. Be careful, Mr. Rain. You are pulling all of Eastern Macopa into a bloody conflict with Rumburg. Don't get me wrong, I may have reacted the same way in your stead, but I would have made sure the Swordish military was well and ready for such a fight. I truly hope you are ready for what's coming, for all of our sakes. I am doing all I can to prevent a conflict. You must try harder before it's too late. I rebuilt this republic with my own sweat and blood. I will not see it collapse again. If you don't mind, Colonel, I'd prefer to watch the match in silence, if you don't mind. I've heard enough. A sudden burst of cheering from the stadium made both of us look out the window. The players had begun walking out onto the field. Ah, look, Mr. Rain. It's starting. He pointed directly at a group of FC Enrica fans who stood up holding coloured boards, creating a massive illustration of Tarquin Sol. Jeez. Under the portrait, the bottom row of boards slowly revealed the words, "Welcome home, Colonel." Yes, keep watching, not saying a word. As if plastering my name everywhere in this city wasn't enough. I suppose I'm flattered. Another group of fans raised their boards to reveal a silhouette of the famous Hall of Warriors, a Marcian-era architectural ruin in Enrica, with Tarquin Sol in front of it. As the players of the Real Monteclar lined up in the middle of the field, FC Enrica fans started chanting, "We'll eat you whole for Colonel Sol." Right after the referee signalled the start of the match, the door closed behind us with a thud. Well, Colonel, how do you feel about being Enrica's new poster boy? Looks like it's working well for the city, and if you move back home, I'm sure you get free meals and drinks everywhere you went. Ewald Alfonso quickly walked up to the sofa, shook our hands, and sat next to us, smiling as he did so. You know I never had a strong connection to this place. Mr. Lest should have asked my permission before using my name to market his city. Oh, it was actually Gus Mange's idea. Why am I not surprised? He's full of ideas, your Mr. Manger, except when it comes to the job he's actually supposed to be doing. No need to be so dismissive. Gus has proven himself time and again. His work rejuvenated Swordish industries, and without him, Enrica wouldn't be the city it is today. We'll let them crack on. I've had enough of this. I'll let them continue. All of the man's so-called accomplishments have been purely accidental. You say that, Mr. Sol, but Mr. Manger is a respectable professional who actually loves his country. More like an errand boy, doing the bidding of those who lie in his pockets. Alfonso sighed. I don't intend to take the role of his personal spokesman. You know, I had a feeling that despite all of our conversations, you never truly grasped how much Gasson meant to me or Swordland. But I hope you see now how much damage you've done to our country's energy industry. You cannot lay your own failures at the feet of the state, Alfonso. Admit it. A man with your profit-focused mentality should have never been given the keys to such a vital sector, let alone the presidency. Ewell's upper lip curled. He has a habit of upsetting everybody, doesn't he? Come on, what's done is done. Let's start an argument. Let's watch this bloody football. You're right, let's not dwell on this. Just then, FC Enrica's star midfielder made a breakaway down the field. The crowd erupted into cheers as the ball was passed from player to player, each touch bringing it closer to the goal. Look, we're going to score! Too predictable. They won't make it past the other team's defence. And as if on cue, Real Monteclar's defence made a crucial block, sending the ball back down the field. With your strategy skills, you should be a football coach, Colonel. Don't make me laugh. I was so tired to me. How about you, Mr. Rain? It's been a while since we last met. Is everything going well at the palace? Everything is fine, thank you. That's a relief. Suddenly, a huge roar shook the stadium. The crowd was in a frenzy as FC Enrica finally got the ball past the dominating Riesian defenders. Considering that Rumberg is actively pushing for war, you seem too composed and calm, Mr. Rain. Well, don't worry, everything is under control. Everything will fall into place soon. Just then, Monteclar midfielders execute an incredibly fast counter-attack, scoring a goal that put them ahead in just a few seconds. The Swordish side of the stadium fell completely silent. It was bad luck getting a top-tier Riesian team as our opponent. I still applaud our guys for giving it their best. Not even FC Gelsord has ever come this far in an international tournament. Why so bleak? It's not even half-time yet. Enrica can still come out on top. Don't expect that to make sense for him. You are talking to Ewald Alfonso. Sure, I'll be a punching bag for both of you today. The only noise that could be heard from the stadium was shouting from the Riesian side, Monteclar! All eyes were glued to the scoreboard as the new score appeared. FC Enrica 0, Real Monteclar 1. From that moment on, we turned our complete attention to the match in front of us. The Riesian players kept dominating the field. The referee blew the whistle. It was half-time. Oh, that was rough. We heard a noise from above us. A Zeppelin was flying over the stadium with a giant poster hanging beneath it. I noticed that it was an advertisement for the Alfonso Foundation. At the centre of the poster stood Ewald Alfonso, portrayed with a warm smile and a twinkle in his eye. We've got posters of Saul and, Saul all over the city. We've got a Zeppelin with his bloody picture on it. Where's my picture? In his outstretched hand he held a whimsical compass, glowing with a soft golden light. Surrounding him were people from all walks of life and cultures. The tagline, written in elegant and uplifting typography, was prominently displayed at the bottom. Alfonso Foundation, bringing hope to those in need, one act of kindness at a time. So, we're probably speechless. Just then, the speakers in the stadium started playing a sound recording in full volume. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you a message from the Alfonso Foundation, dedicated to spreading kindness and hope to the less fortunate. Picture a Swordland where compassion shines brighter than the stars in the sky, where the power of generosity uplifts those who need it most. That Swordland can exist thanks to the Alfonso Foundation. Led by the charismatic and esteemed President Ewald Alfonso, this foundation is on a mission to make a difference in the lives of our fellow citizens, one act of kindness at a time. You call this kindness? Every Swordish wren you donate to the Alfonso Foundation helps us provide shelter, food, and a chance for a brighter future to those without a home, without hope. Thanks to the donations of President Ewald Alfonso and thousands of Swordish citizens, the Alfonso Foundation has already lifted hundreds out of homelessness. A couple of hundred people? Congratulations to you both. This is how Swordland will eradicate poverty. Won't you join us in this noble endeavour? Just call the number 1600-ALFONSO to make your contribution today. Your support will help us extend a helping hand to those in need. The recording ended with a few seconds of upbeat jazzy background music that slowly faded out. What the hell was that? What's wrong? Alfonso, are you not ashamed? Instead of planning a proper, affordable housing program, you're spending your time with crap like this. Is this your way of personal redemption? Spending a few wrens out of your billions and portraying yourself as their saviour? Unlike you, Mr. Saul, I'm not portraying myself as a hero here. I retired from politics just like you did, and I'm now using my clout to help the poor. What's so wrong about this?
You know, I never called myself a hero. Ewald, it was my supporters who portrayed me as one. Don't spin the truth.
Maybe they didn't have any other choice back then.
Oh.
Nobody had any choice. There's no other option. We can't help it, just spitting it out there. Precisely my point. Would you say it is a valid choice if you only had one option to pick from?
Are you still sore about the party giving you a hard time after I left? Admit it, Ewald. You never could accept being a less popular leader. You hated living under the shadow of what I built.
That is true. I did hate working inside your shadow empire, but I succeeded in dismantling a lot of those obstacles you laid out for me and opened the way for reforms. But you never let the party go free.
So it was I who controlled each and every member? I was behind every problem you faced within the USP? Do you really believe that?
You are the founder of the party, Mr. Sol. Don't even try to deny your influence over it. I still remember how the party became divided after you stopped supporting me. It is on them for being blind to the progress we're making. Sol supported you after the Congress. Oh, why don't we calm down a little here? Exactly. Well, that is very true. So, yeah, clearly.
Instead of blaming the party, why don't you take a look at yourselves? That same party has voted me out on their own volition in preference of the likes of you. According to you, their only correct decision must have been to elect you as leader, and the rest are completely wrong. Do you think everything is a problem that is specifically created to block you? Take a look at yourself. You are the personification of what you're trying to criticize.
Okay, let's just diffuse the situation at this point, I feel. Let's just all calm down. Let's have a drink. It's half time, for heaven's sake. Isn't that when you go to the bar? I agree. Suddenly we turned our heads to the field as a massive roar shook the stadium. The second half was already in full swing and Enrican players were aggressively attacking, weaving in and out of defenders with speed. Suddenly the ball was passed to the famous Swedish striker Hakon Zlatter, who was in front of the goal. I noticed Sol shifting in his seat, his gaze suddenly locked on the field. The Swedish crowd went crazy as Zlatter's powerful shot brought the ball to the back of the Riesian net. Yes! Ewald jumped from his seat. Suddenly, the cheering was interrupted by the linesman raising the flag, making an offside call. VAR, come on. Get VAR on the case. Oh, it's the 1950s, damn it. What time am I finishing? Probably 8 o'clock. I'm playing football at 8:30, so it's got to be pretty much bang on 8. Bullshit! That wasn't an offside. That referee is trying to sabotage us. He was clearly in front of the defenders when he received the ball. Rain showing a bit of knowledge of football here.
Halt your endless bickering. The linesman made the right call.
Look, have you got good eyesight at your age, Tarquin? The angle was all wrong. A decision like that shouldn't be made without proper evaluation.
What next? You're going to install cameras and analyse every position for different angles?
Well... The excitement in the stadium reached a fever pitch as the Swedish striker dribbled the ball past 2 defenders and took a shot at goal again. The crowd held its breath as the ball sailed through the air, but the Montclair goalkeeper made a miraculous save. Damn, that was close. He suddenly pointed to a group of people who were holding signs in the front row. Do you see that? It was a group of Riesians who were holding signs in the Swedish language. No to war in Makopa. Peace between Rumburg and Swordland. Looks like Riesians are also scared of a possible war between us and Rumburg.
The Taurus family is a puppet of Queen Livingston. If the Queen wants war, Riesians will follow them.
They're just a bunch of hippies. We'll continue to stay silent. We have read the briefings that Riesia have ties, family ties to the Queen, so we are aware of that. We mentioned it when we actually went into a partnership with Riesia for the gas situation. Just making sure there's no cancellations of football. Suddenly a wave of shouting made us focus back on the field. An Enrican player was shown a yellow card. With only a few minutes left on the clock, it looked as though the match would end 1-0 loss to Enrica. But suddenly, everything changed. Number 10 of Real Monteclar dribbled expertly towards the goal and effortlessly scored as Enrica defenders watched him in shock. I knew it. We watched in silence as the scoreboard was modified to display FC Enrica 0, Real Monteclar 2. Damn. The Riesian side broke into massive applause as the referee blew the final whistle. Well then, that settles it. We should go down and console the boys. We left the lounge and went downstairs to congratulate the team for their efforts. Well, bit of good old catch-up time with the ex-presidents there. Miserable old sod soul. Heartbreak for Enrica. Oh, never mind. The referee's controversial decision. Despite the heartbreak, Enrica's journey to the Macopan Cup was nothing short of inspiring. They captured the nation's imagination with their exceptional performances and united the country behind their footballing prowess. President Rain conveyed his unwavering support and admiration for the team after the match. Well done, lads. Unlucky. Right, are we off? We're off to the Alliance of Nations Assembly meeting. Ooh, we're putting foot on the world stage here. Have we got anything we can say? Right. I, David Wishy, and the rest of the Swordish delegation to the Alliance of Nations arrived in Kairout. The local police escorted us to the Alliance's headquarters in downtown Constantium, immediately recognisable by its gleaming dome. On entering the building, we were met by a parliamentary guide who briefed us about the procedures. After a strict security screening, the staff ushered us to the 3rd floor. We entered the massive circular assembly hall and took our designated seats. David sat next to me. All of the world's most powerful people under one gleaming dome. One wrong word and the world will go to hell. It's very true. I'm just glad to be among them. Everyone's words and actions here will change the world, for better or worse. How are you feeling, Anton? Ever since what happened to Peter, I'm amazed that you've been holding up so well. I remember how inseparable the two of you were in university. He was a true friend. I just hope he's in a better place now. It is tough to be the president, making harsh decisions and dealing with their consequences. I wish I could have supported you more, but time has been a cruel mistress. For what it's worth, I appreciate the advice you've given me. Thank you, Anton. From a distance, we could see the President of the General Assembly, Mr. Nines, approaching his designated position. Well, the session is about to start. Let's get comfortable. It's going to be a long day. Mr. Nines opened the session with a short speech and called the first speaker to the floor. It is my great pleasure to invite the Prime Minister of Lesbia to address the Assembly. This is the drunken guy, right? Patricio Alvarez stood up and walked to the podium as the Assembly applauded. Mr. President, it is my pleasure to return to this podium. David leaned in and spoke in a low voice. Let's see how crazy this year's session will get. I'm surprised he isn't drunk. We did say it, didn't we? We have to say it. David chuckled. When I last spoke here, the message I gave was of encouragement and support to this organisation and the vital role it plays. Of all the challenges Eastern Macopa and the whole world has faced since then, one has grown larger and more imminent than any other. The threat of the so-called socialist states and the actions taken by their authoritarian rulers with no regard to international law. A loud noise came from the table of Valgsland. I saw Emmerich Hegel pounding his fist on the table in protest. We just keep watching. This is our ally, by the way. Today, the need to come together as the leaders of the free world is more important than ever. The CSP, under the leadership of United Contana, has been fueling Valgsland's military-industrial complex and his expansionist aims in eastern Macopa. The world turned a blind eye when the armies of Valgsland occupied Heliland, and they did not stop there. According to our intelligence reports, United Contana made nuclear missiles were quickly deployed to the island. He pulled out a photograph. Even though it was hard to see from my position, I recognise it as an aerial image of Heliland. We demand that the Chancellor speak the truth. As you can all see, we have evidence of the construction of silos. Do you think it's true? Honestly, this was always likely to happen, but so soon after the occupation, I didn't expect that. David looked concerned. No Eastern Macopan nation can accept the installation of weapons of mass destruction in the middle of our Markian Sea. Emmerich Hegel stood up and kept pounding his fists. We hereby call for the immediate dismantling and withdrawal of all missiles and other offensive weapons from Heliland. We invited all member states to support our call for a resolution in accordance with Article 11 of the Falenco Treaty. A lot of noise came from the Assembly Hall in response. Most of the Western Macopan delegates were clapping, while others either shouted in protest or sat in stony silence. Let us also not forget about the recent events that transpired in another state within socialist teachings, a state that wages war against its own innocent citizens. Valen. Keep listening. The purge of the minorities in their country was, again, largely ignored by the international community. I would go as far to call it genocide. Valen violated our past treaties and mobilized their armed forces, deploying them close to our borders and authorizing them to partake in massacres. Lesbia was affected not only by the large wave of refugees coming from Valen, but by the subsequent government seizure of all of our companies that were active in the country. We hereby call the member states to action against Valen and its rogue government. Thank you. Well, we're not going to react to his speech. We're implicit in some of that stuff. He walked back to his seat amidst enthusiastic applause from most of the Macopan delegates. President Nines waited for the noise to calm down and invited the next speaker, the president of Valen, Victor Smolak. Smolak stood up. As he walked past Patricio Alvarez, he brushed him aside with an exaggerated sweep of his arms. When he reached the podium, he fumbled with the microphone for a few seconds. Then he smiled at Alvarez mockingly as he raised the height of it. Petty. Look at the theatrics. Yes, that's him. Victor turned to President Nines and bowed slightly. Mr. President. He then turned back at us and stared out into the hall for a few seconds. Fellow delegates. It is true that the world today faces a multitude of challenges. In the midst of these challenges, the world's most powerful leaders gather here in Cairo. And what do? They make threats, promote hate and spread lies. Is this the alliance of nations we all want? Where is the cooperation and friendship? Where is the unity? I want to remind you of the wars that the West fought on our soil, of the foreign troops who occupied our country and seized our valuable resources. I want to remind you how they stole the oil from our sacred soil, and they did not know when to stop. The ATO soldiers left, but their interference never ceased. They financed armed rebel groups whose only purpose is to create terror inside our country. So, fellow delegates, don't you dare speak about Valen before you acknowledge your involvement in our civil war, before you acknowledge your own dark past. As is well known, after the tremendous tragedy of the Valen Civil War, Arcasia made a deal with United Quintana, where they agreed upon the withdrawal of their troops, along with the removal of half of our army. Not only did they weaken us, we were left alone in facing the genocidal Bluedish Freedom Front, which the ATO funds together with Rumberg. Just like the delegate before me, I will show you some of the evidence of foreign interference. He picked up a large stack of papers and waved them back and forth. I have clear evidence of direct aid from Rumberg to the Bluedish Freedom Front. They smuggled tons of Ka-74s in Valen. They smuggled in their spies, smuggled in mercenary commanders. Yes, he's finally talking about it. We're not the only ones now. So it seems. These documents will be published everywhere. Copies have already been sent to the investigative affairs of the Alliance of Nations. I expect this organization to do its task and investigate this properly, instead of leaving Valen behind as they have always done. Coming back to the claims of the lesbian representative. First, there is no evidence of civilian massacres by the Vezek forces, nor so-called purges of minority. Second, the operation was limited only to the militant BFF, not the Bloods in general. Third, we know your government is also implicated in the funding of the BFF, and your oil companies aided their militants during the operation. Fourth, as the state, we only took what was ours. The companies the delegate spoke of were not only aiding militants, they were brought to Valen by force. Know that Valen will no longer recognize the right of any other country to determine what type of weapons we are permitted to possess, or what type of policies we follow within our borders. Valen stands stronger and more united than ever. Our people have spoken. The enemies inside our borders are crushed. Now, I ask every delegate here to read our report on the connections of the West with the armed militants in eastern Macopa, and I ask the Alliance of Nations to do what's right. Valen only wants peace. Our people want peace. They are counting on the support and understanding of all the nations of the world. Their proclamation is, "Free Valen, or death." The assembly roared with particularly loud applause coming from the seats of Rican nations. Stand up and applaud his speech. I'm quite tempted. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's not wrong, is it, really? I mean, there's probably some slight... we're still not 100% about the whole mountain pass thing, but at least, you know, the evidence of the interference part of it definitely we've got evidence too. Victor slowly walked back to his seat as he applauded himself, and these were, I think we're allied with them, we're trading with them at least anyway. He saluted the Rican delegates as he passed them. Next, President Nines invited Martin van Horten to the podium. He walked up to the microphone with quick steps. He was frowning and clenching his fists. I could almost see his jaw trembling. Oh dear, it's Helliland time. Mr. President, fellow delegates of the Assembly, and friends, it is an honour to be with you today. I wish we could meet under different circumstances. Once again, the CSP nations, and in particular Valg's land, have shown us what they're willing to do to achieve their political aims. I must sadly say that the world has left us alone. We were one of the first countries to propose proper cooperation among Eastern Macopan nations. Yet when we were threatened by Valgslandian expansionism, nobody came to our side. Although Mr. Alvarez voiced his indirect support for us earlier in today's session, I can't keep myself from wondering where he was when our lands were under invasion by the very socialists he spoke about. So here I am, asking for the support of the fellow member states of the Alliance of Nations. Agnolia is under attack by Valgsland. A loud banging noise emerged from the table of Valgslandian delegates. All of them were pounding their fists on the table. I kept watching. Popcorn. Mr. President, please moderate the Assembly. This is more than disrespectful. Emmerich Hegel began shouting curses as Nines repeatedly banged his gavel for order. After a minute of back and forth shouting, the noise settled and Nines allowed Martin to continue. As you all know, Helliland, which had been a territory of Agnolia for more than 3 decades, was invaded by Valgsland in a sudden attack. Not only did they unlawfully occupy our land, they brought nuclear missiles to the island the moment our forces retreated. Millennia's terror surrounds us on all sides. We must not falter. I invite all member states to find a resolution in accordance with Article 11 of the Felenco Treaty, enforcing the immediate dismantling of all missiles from Helliland. I must also remind you that under Article 3 of the Ventry City Treaty, the Alliance of Nations must ensure the withdrawal of the occupying force from the island. I call the democratic world to action against the tyranny of millennialism, authoritarianism, militarism, and extremism. The banging noise started again. Hegel stood up and approached the rostrum. You are a spineless jerk, a lackey of Arcasian imperialism. President Nines called for silence and started hitting the gavel. What does he think he's doing? All of your complaints against us are a direct result of your capitalist and neo-colonialist systems. President Nines, please, what is this? President Nines smacked his gavel in vain as a shouting match broke out in the assembly. Finally, after a few minutes, the other Valgslandian delegates convinced Hegel to sit back down. I believe I don't need to speak more about this subject. Everything is clear as day. Mr. Hegel's actions speak volumes about the reality of Valgsland and their corrupted ideology. I hope to see this conflict resolved with the help of the Alliance of Nations soon. He quickly left the podium and nodded to the other Agnolian delegate. The two left the assembly hall. President Nines announced the next speaker, Emmerich Hegel. Hegel immediately took his place and spoke in a low, seething tone. Thank you. Oh, David, it's the Chancellor's time now. It looks like you're having fun, Mr. President. Do I have to speak? First of all, I want to extend a due welcome to the new states from Rica that have joined this organization. After fighting for years against colonialism and imperialism, they more than earned our membership vote. I'm overjoyed to see them finally represented in this assembly. As our numbers grow and more states are represented in this stage, we come ever closer to finding resolutions to the conflicts that plague us. For hundreds of years, the dominant economies of Makopa razed, pillaged, and exploited the continents of Rika and Xena. Sadly, Valg's land was also a part of this plunder in the years before the revolution, when it still clung to the idea of imperialism. But when our masses found their voice, the old colonial powers and their new financiers turned against them. These powers did whatever they could to hamper our revolutions. They did not want the people to be heard. They are scared of us for showing the possibility of a better path. Of course, they don't want us to succeed. We threaten the productivity that runs on the blood and sweat of their working class. And now they have started labelling us the aggressors. Yet we all know it was the Arcasians who built up military bases all around Makopa. It was the ATO that was first formed to fight against millennialism. Helliland was, is, and will be Valgslandian territory. Our intervention in the island was completely justified. Mr. Delegates brought up the Falenko and Ventry City treaties. However, they are forgetting about the Treaty of Constantium. Valgsland exercised its right to intervene on behalf of our people who were being oppressed and massacred by the Agnolian government just because they did not recognize an appointed governor. They didn't get to elect one. We acted in full accordance with the second article of the treaty. If there is a side to be blamed, it is the state which murders its minorities for publicly showing support to our nation. There were also claims about illegal missiles. No country in the world has the right to determine what type of weapons we import. If there is a conflict the Alliance can resolve, let's start with the Arcasian base on Ravnos Island. Lesbia has been housing Arcasian troops and missiles by our border for years, and none of the member states even talked about it. I also want the member states to look into the Arcasian bases in Lesbia. And if the Alliance of Nations truly claims to have the people's best interests at heart, they cannot stay silent about what the Agnolian government did in Helliland, how they took away the rights of our people. Perhaps then there can be proper dialogue between our nations, and the Alliance of Nations can finally demonstrate that it can serve its intended purpose. But unfortunately, the Alliance of Nations remains all too willing to overlook such human rights violations. However, the Valgslandian government is ready as always to fight the forces of oppression and colonial servitude on behalf of free people everywhere. He raised his left fist. Ir Walton Vescor. Was that Swordish? Did I catch that right? He said the revolution will come, yes, but it was in Old Valgish. Very similar to Swordish, right? Some words are even written the same way, but I'm surprised you caught that from his accent. Most of the delegates from Xena, Rika and Contana responded with thunderous applause. Hegel shook hands with them as he walked back to his seat. President Nines announced the next speaker. Oh boy. Queen Beatrice Livingston. We've all been waiting for. Dear President of the Assembly, dear delegates, dear leaders of the world, just as my fellow Eastern Macopan delegates spoke about the troubles plaguing our continent, I also have to bring attention to the plight of the people of the North. The Alliance of Nations, the ATO, the CSP, and even the OMEC have never supported our people when they've been through tragic atrocities. Unlike many of the Western countries here, we never received financial aid when natural disasters struck our lands. The pain of our people was never recognized, not even when they faced the threat of genocide by the hands of the Swordish kings. In light of all that, I implore this alliance to take a closer look at the actions of our southern neighbours. Not long ago, Swordland reinforced its forces along our borders. They took in traitors and gave them protection. Their president even went so far as to blame our country for spying on his administration through his own private secretary. And he expects the world to believe his lies? That hag. Point of order! Should we be quiet? She can't be throwing accusations about. Point of order! Order in the court! Objection! President Nines overruled my objection and told me to wait for the Queen to finish speaking. Too much Judge Judy. Swordland closed their borders to innocent Bludish people fleeing from being massacred by the Wessex forces. They even supported and cooperated with Valen in their ethnic war against the Bludish people. And inside their country, they've been oppressing and killing innocent civilians just because they belong to a different culture. I wish to extend my sympathies to all Bludish people that had to go through that tragic atrocities being committed by the Swordish authorities. I hereby invite all of you to determine the initiation of a proper intergovernmental investigation into Swordland. If the Alliance continues to shirk its given duties, you can trust in Rumberg to take matters into her own hands. It is also important to point out that Rumberg will not stand idly by if more Contanan and Arcasian military are transferred to eastern Macopa. I hereby condemn both the CSP and ATO for trying to influence our region with their military power. Before I finish, I also want to say, Mr. Smolak, I'm looking forward to reading your report. I wonder what this so-called evidence is all about. Know that your slander does not work on us. Know that we are ready to die for our freedom. Know that our kingdom stands firm and strong. Expect a grand awakening. Thank you. Grand awakening? That sounded like a threat. She left the rostrum without getting much applause. Bitch. Then President Nine spoke my name. Right, here we go. We've given many a speech. Rain, you idiot. Right, we've given many a speech. I feel that this could be perhaps one of the most important. Don't flounder now. Mr. Anton Rain, President of Swordland, I invite you to address the Assembly. David immediately started applauding. Holy cow, here we go. Good luck, Mr. President. Holy cow. I walked up to the rostrum and took my place at the podium. In front of me were some of the most powerful leaders in the entire world. I looked them in the eyes. Thank you, Mr. President, fellow delegates. Swordland remains committed to the Alliance of Nations and the ideals that gave birth to it. I would like to stress the importance of these words. Alliance of Nations. Just getting warmed up. Our world is faced with the dangers of division, the dangers of large military alliances and nuclear arms races. This is quite tempting. This is quite tempting. My great achievements may either be used for the benefit or to the detriment of mankind. Ooh. We've always been a man of unity. I kind of feel like Softly Softly is not going to get it done here, though. Full force, eh? Full force. You know what? Yeah. It's time to ask the hard questions. Ask if this organisation is indeed achieving any of its aims. This might be too tough. And now I'd like to address some of the topics mentioned here today. It was earlier claimed that Valen was involved in a genocide. Such strong words shouldn't be spoken without proper evidence. Swordland stands together with the Wezek people. We will continue our cooperation with Valen. I have to admit that Operation... No, I can't admit that. We have to stand together. We've got to all in. It's like a poker game. You push us in. We will stand together with the people of Wezek. The Wezek people. I would also like to respond to Mr. Van Horten. He claims there is malicious terror. All I see is neo-colonialism and imperialism terrorising underdeveloped nations. That's very harsh. But, again, it's kind of fully supporting Valgsland here. Again, who we are allies with. It's a bit harsh on him, but you know what? We're going all in here. This is in for a penny, in for a pound. We're not here to tilly-tally about. Valgsland only wishes to achieve freedom for the people of the world. Swordland sympathises with that noble cause. In any case, Swordland will do whatever it takes to achieve peace in Eastern Makopa. Who's the CSP? Who is the CSP? The Kontanan Security Pact. We're not interested in them. Yeah, we're not interested in that. That's a bit too much. Freedom for the people of the world. Oh, no, we'll just do whatever it takes to achieve peace. And I would also like to address the Queen of Rumburg. She talked about some hypothetical threat that our nation poses to Eastern Makopa, while Rumburg's military has tripled in the last decade. We wanted to be diplomatic, even when Rumburg shot down our plane. I also have some evidence to show to the Assembly. Mr. Smolak was right about the KA-74s. We discovered that many militant groups in Swordland were being financed or armed by Rumberg. And there is another important piece of evidence that we have, provided to us by someone close to the Rumbergian government. Mr. Hailstone was branded a traitor in Rumberg for blowing the whistle on the country's hidden nuclear facilities. Asking them to support us directly or asking them to investigate them? Nah. I think, maybe if everybody has asked the Alliance of Nations to do their investigation, and we started by talking about, it's a bit too far up now, about the fact that they need to do their job. So, yeah, investigate them properly. Thank you for listening to our concerns, and I wish to see a resolution from the AN soon. We stand and always will stand for the rights of the people of Swordland and Eastern Bacopa, just as those in other continents. Or the AN can no longer fail to recognise the machinations of the enemies of peace. I like that. I like that. There cannot be any more procrastination or delay. The AN must adopt decisions according to the wishes of the people of the world. It's the whole people of the world crap that I don't like, but there can't be any more procrastination. There can't be any more delay. You need to pull your finger out and look at the evidence. I'm going to say our line. Bollocks you all. There was some applause from the Assembly. It's more than she got, Queenie. Raise your fist. Thank you. I left the podium. I walked back to my seat. David did not stop applauding until I sat down. What do you think? It was not a bad speech, Mr. President. You did well. President Nines announced the next speaker, Dwight Walker. Look at the time, Jesus. Mr. President, I first want to congratulate you on your election to this high office. Mr. Secretary, delegates to the Alliance of Nations, ladies and gentlemen, fellow friends, we meet again on our quest to bring peace and light into this world. But even though some of the clouds have lifted, the world has not yet escaped the darkness. The Contanan Security Pact is rapidly expanding its influence. It's very troubling to see a democratic nation of Bacopa be invaded by those millennialist powers. I refer, of course, to Heliland's occupation by Valsland. This is an attack against the lasting peace the world has enjoyed since the century of revolutions. Today, our peacekeeping obligations are being tested by United Contana and the millennialist bloc. If we fail to counter and stop this threat, if we stay idle and allow them to build new walls and weapons of hostility, if the attackers do not face any consequences, then this unstable peace we believed we had built will be the world's downfall, and posterity will point its finger at us for not stopping it. Noise was being made by Hegel again and his Valklandian buddies. This time Hegel had taken off his shoe. I was banging the table with it. What the heck? It's getting ridiculous. He's not even ashamed at his age. Despite its claims, the CSP's actions will only bring about war. We believe United Quintana and Acacia, together with their allies, could come to an understanding for our mutual benefit and our desire to avoid the destruction of the world. Yet United Quintana keeps acting in complete disregard to international law. Their allies are forcefully taking lands and imposing their own values on the people of those lands. I will say this to the leaders of United Quintana. If either of us is to be secure, we need a peaceful cooperation, not nuclear missiles, shows of naval superiority, or invasions. If the leaders of United Quintana fail to demilitarize Heliland, with complete dismantling of their nuclear missiles and the withdrawal of occupying Voslandian forces, the ATO will have to take matters into our own hands. Hegel stood up with the shoe in his hand.
What is that supposed to mean? You're promoting war in the Alliance of Nations? Mr. President, this
Nine slammed the gavel down and shouted, "Silence, please!" Mr. Chancellor, please let me finish. We did not interrupt you when you addressed the Assembly. Finally, I propose that the Alliance of Nations undertake the noble cause of helping the people of the world through rewriting and properly enforcing its Human Rights Declaration. The Alliance of Nations cannot survive as a static organisation. Its size and duties are increasing enormously. It should adapt to the changing world. But peace and rights do not rest in the hands of this organisation alone. They rely on the hearts of our people and the spirit of cooperation between our nations. So let it be known, my fellow inhabitants of this world, let us take a stand and see if we can finally achieve a lasting peace. Thank you. Most of the Assembly applauded his speech, the ATO delegates in particular. And very dangerous connotations to it. Yes, I hope they won't be seeing a direct war between the superpowers anytime soon. That would be the destruction of the planet. The applause continued for some time. Walker shook hands with various delegates on his way back to his seat. President Nines announced the last speaker before the break. It was Leon Mileniev. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this in time, you know. I'm concerned, it's almost 8 o'clock. Mileniev slowly walked to the rostrum in his iconic suit. All of the CSP delegates stood up and applauded him. Cancel footy. I can go until 10 past and no later. Honourable Chairman and fellow delegates to the Alliance of Nations. Chavatanguwunu. Leon for short. Here we are again at the most esteemed meeting of state representatives in the world. However, increasingly we are being threatened, disregarded, attacked or ignored in this assembly. The representatives of Arcasia has just shown this unfriendly attitude towards us yet again. Arcasia would have you believe we are standing in the way of lasting peace, yet the peace they talk about was only possible thanks to our missiles and our growing base in the developing world. The ATO kept waging wars against people's revolutions and forcing new independent states to be their puppets, binding them to themselves through the Arcasian lira. And now yet another Arcasian president is telling us that we are the aggressors and they are the keepers of peace. We will not be silent anymore against these lies. When was this peace you talk about? Where was this cooperation between our countries? Have you ever accepted our invitation to talk about denuclearization? If you don't like us, don't accept our deals, don't listen to our concerns and keep pointing fingers at us. Why did you invite us to the Alliance of Nations? Every year, United Quintana comes to this assembly to address the real problems of real people. People who suffer because of your systems, your wars and your ignorance. Whether you like it or not, we'll keep representing the labourers, the slaves, the oppressed of this world. And believe it or disregard it, history is on our side. We say to the representatives of capitalist countries, come and visit us. Come and see the revolution working in Quintana. Show our continent to your people without distorting the reality. If you cannot do that, then you need not come. We believe socialism will triumph over capitalism in the end. Such is the logical conclusion of the development of humankind. This time lesbian delegates started laughing very loudly. Some other delegates booed. Keep watching. You can keep laughing, gentlemen. Communism will bury you. Suddenly the laughing turned into shouting. If you really believe in cooperation, we will be waiting. We're not going anywhere. However, If the ATO keeps intervening in our matters, it is natural that the CSP would react. Despite threats from the ATO, Rumberg, or any other nation or organisation, we must not succumb to further division and violence. We must ask ourselves, what do the people of our countries expect of us? They surely don't want war and bloodshed. So let us leave our children and grandchildren good memories of our time and a better future for all. Let them look at history and say, once there were great divisions and complex problems, but the leaders of the world came together in the alliance of nations and succeeded in settling them in order to ensure our peaceful lives. Let us act in such a way to make this session not a session of threats, but a session of hopes, and the realisation of them. The government of United Contana and the United Peoples of Contana are ready to serve their duties for world peace. Long live the People's Revolution! Okay, that'll do. The assembly broke into massive applause. The applause continued for some time. Mileniev slowly walked back to his seat as the president announced a break. That was a lot. It definitely was. It was quite scary, to be honest. We need to be careful. We walked out of the hall to have some lunch and fresh air. Oh, holy cow, just in time. Right, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I have to dash to football. Oh, phone call with the Queen of Rumberg. Jesus wept. Right, we've got 5 news articles, briefings, and a phone call with the Queen of Rumberg. Do the call fast. No, I need to go. Now. So next session, we will be having a phone call with the Queen. It's big important. Well, it's going to have to be a cliffhanger then, isn't it? I've got to go get my clothes on and then drive there without rushing, really. So, yeah. Right, next stream, Sunday. There'll be more of this. I want to play this to be finished. So, yeah, we shall see what old Queenie has to say about the matter. Could be a big call. Could tip the balance between peace or war. But hey, we'll see what happens next time. Have a great evening. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll see if I can get some Fallout up before Sunday. I was going to record some today, but got distracted with some exercise. But yeah, I'll try and get some done because I was watching some of the videos, last couple of videos to get myself back into it yesterday, and I was quite fancying playing it. But yeah. So anyway, have a good one, folks, and hopefully see you on Sunday for some more big events. Until then, see you soon.